Alright, I am back with the Destiny 2 video. I see a lot of big content creators making their own kind of general thoughts, general review on Lightfall videos. So I wanted to make one of my own, even though it's certainly not going to be as good as some of them. The definitive video about Lightfall's story you should watch is Bife's. He did a really excellent sort of destruction of the storyline of Lightfall. That video's got like 500,000 views now. It's very good. I just watched Dado's thoughts video. You should definitely watch all those. But all I can offer are my own thoughts in addition to the bazillions of articles I write, although I've been a little more guide focused lately with those because people are trying to get certain things done. I want to go through pretty much all the aspects of the campaign. I'll have some just footage of me doing one of my legend runs. I have done the legendary campaign 2.9 times now. I've done it on Warlock. I did a normal run on Warlock first, which I kind of now regret because legendary was not that much different in terms of time to get through it. So I think that was just kind of a waste. In the future, I'll probably just start with legendary. And then I went back and did another run with Warlock, and then I did one on Titan, and I am on the last mission of Hunter. Therefore, I have done a lot of experimenting with Strand's post-campaign on Warlock and Titan so far, not Hunter. Hunter just using it in the campaign itself. Loot, it's still very early. No one has really farmed up god rolls of the new loot and stuff, but we'll try to go through pretty much everything. Some things I'm not going to talk about, like the new strikes. I did the strike playlist and I haven't had those come up in rotation, but I hear they're bad and they just kind of turn them into slogs. I will say people's concerns about the strike playlist feeling too hard or whatever, now that you're not ridiculously over-leveled for it, that was nothing, because it feels exactly the same as it did before, almost identically. I don't know what the deal is there, but it is very easy still, so no worries there. We will start with the Lightfall campaign, obviously. That is the biggest thing here. I should probably add a little Defiance section. Defiance is so early, though, I don't even know if I should really go into that now. I'll probably touch on it. The Lightfall campaign. I think there are two parts of the Lightfall campaign, the narrative and then how it actually feels to play. I've actually had a pretty fun time playing the campaign. The physical act of playing the Legendary campaign is enjoyable. I have enjoyed trying to figure out, different strats on the different classes, and how to handle these different sections that were maybe really hard the first time, but you throw an Striga and Le Monarch or whatever, and it's not as hard the second time, especially once you know the mechanics. I think the difficulty here is pretty on point. I don't think this is especially difficult. I don't know if it's more difficult than the Witch Queen. I would say maybe a little more so, just because of one or two segments that are kind of real sticking points. But in terms of generally how it feels, I don't think the -15 is a huge detriment. I think you could still feel plenty powerful there, and even if you do wipe, sometimes, rarely did I run into a point where it felt like beating my head against the wall, and if I did once, I certainly didn't feel that on subsequent reruns on other characters. I'd say the two hardest parts of the campaign, there's the one, I just beat this mission, it's the second to last mission, but it's the part where you can only use Strand, and there's a big Minotaur, and you have to spin around the room and kill it. I know some people had a lot of trouble with that. I didn't have as much trouble with that, I would say, on Legends. You just kind of grapple to the snipers, kill them, keep ad clearing as you go around the room, and then, depending on what you can use, Striga on the boss, you can use Retrofit, you can use a million things. There's a lot of good strategies here, and I felt as long as you just kept moving, as long as you just avoided the wall of death that creeps around, that part wasn't so bad. The Callus fight, sorry, spoilers, you fight Callus as final boss. I thought this was the most obvious thing on Earth, but some people got mad at me on Twitter because I posted the legendary Callus guide. This really screwed with me. I really did not know how to take this on my first time doing it. I think I died at least 25 times, most of which were in the second phase, getting booped off the edge. I really enjoyed this fight overall, though. I think it was a really interesting challenge that I see people taking on a number of ways. I've seen people do it without Strand completely. I've seen people doing 3-man boss burning. I've seen people zipping around the room with Strand. My best strategy easily was sort of staying in the main area for the beginning, spamming Astrotree to poison him, and then for the melee part, just making sure that you are using the zip lines so when he melees you, it's not going to make you fly off the edge, which will not happen if you're ziplining. But I thought that was a really solidly designed fight, and I thought it was actually probably better than the final fight of the Witch Queen. And I did enjoy the combat of most of the Lightfall campaign. What I did not enjoy was the story. It's very bad. It is Destiny 1 level bad. It is very close to that. And I know some people are saying like, oh, you gotta be kidding. It's not even close to like Destiny 1 level bad. It is because, well, the actual story may not be as bad as the incoherent mess that was the Destiny 1 vanilla storyline. The problem is we have seen them now prove that they can do a really great story. We've had a number of solid expansions. Witch Queen was a phenomenal campaign story, a really great expansion, and we've seen them do great work with a lot of the seasonal storylines. Some are up and down, but overall seasonal storytelling has been dramatically improved, characterization has been improved, and then all of that is gone here. It is just completely out the window. We are stuck in a campaign with very new, very untested characters, and a weirdly cranky Osiris who is not an enjoyable person to lead a campaign. Absolutely one of the core issues of the campaign is forcing Strand to be a part of the narrative way, way more than it should have been. I've counted 2 entire missions are just Strand tutorials. It's like, we gotta train with Strand against the Vex, and they even have like a little like Rocky training montage musical cue, and like that might be a somewhat effective introduction to Strand, but it is not a good story mission because you're just killing Vex with Strand. That's it. It's very boring. And that's like at least half the campaign by itself. And then the other half is the Veil. And the Veil has become a meme at this point where it's this mysterious thing. It is a large object, force, I don't know. At the end you see it's kind of like a jellyfish. There's like some biological structures to it. It kind of looks like Mara Sov's power that she summons. It's paracausal, but everybody acts like they know what it is and why it's important, and they just never tell us. And I'm still not 100% sure if the NPCs do know what it is or if they're just acting like it. The game seems to indicate they don't actually know what it is because a lot of the post-campaign story stuff is like, well, I guess we better investigate the Veil some more. And like if you just kind of logic it out, you can sort of get at least a baseline idea of what the Veil is, where it's some sort of defense mechanism protecting the Traveler. Like the Witness goes up to the Traveler, he's going to try and do something to the Traveler. He can't. He sends Callus to Neomuna to destroy the Veil or use the mass to transfer the Veil or something. And then in the end, he does this anyway because he can just use our ghost. And I guess it was all a ploy just to get us there so he could just channel through our ghost and get it. He gets through the Traveler like this way. He gets through the defenses. So it's some sort of defense mechanism, and yet it is also more complicated than that because it is an object that spawns strands. It is the reason Strand exists. It is the byproduct of the Veil. It is also linked up to CloudNet. It like powers this entire like cloud consciousness structure of Neomuna, even though they don't really seem to understand what it is. It is literally going back to like the Black Heart days of Destiny 1, where it's this big MacGuffin, this thing is bad, you must stop this thing. And then it's hilarious because they go and they compare it to the Vex. They're trying to retroactively say now that the Vex created the Black Heart as their own like artificial darkness version of the Veil, I think. Like that is in one of the posts. That's like the first post-campaign exotic mission. They talk about that. And it's like you've taken one of the most nonsensical things ever from the worst Destiny storyline, and you're like, yeah, it's just like that. And you're like, no, that's not. There are good ways to go and like retcon the story and like try to make past things fit. I think they did a good job with Elsie Bray. The Exo Stranger was never supposed to be Elsie Bray. That was never the plan when the Exo Stranger first showed up. But I think they did a good job of retroactively including that in the story. Trying to retroactively give new relevance to the Black Heart and link it to the Veil is very stupid. And I was starting to get pretty excited toward the end. I actually like the part where you're going through the old Ishtar Collective thing. You're going down and down and down and down. And even though there's no combat during that part, it's really exciting because you're like, I'm gonna find out what the veil is. Like, what is the veil? Like, what is the big mystery here? And of course, you get nothing. You get no explanation. You kill Callus, the witness gets the veil anyway or deactivates it, and then goes into the Traveler. And then this leads into the truly bizarre finale, truly bizarre, where the Traveler has been killed, except maybe not really, and like all the NPCs seem oddly chill about it. Nothing about this makes sense. When we saw the witness cut this triangle portal in the Traveler, never once did I think the Traveler was dead from that. I thought maybe it had gone inside the Traveler, but I didn't think it had killed the Traveler. It's not even clear that it did kill the Traveler, because in the lore after, they're just like, yeah, we don't actually know what the witness did to the Traveler. The ghosts are just saying they can't feel the Traveler's presence. Even though the ghosts still have the light, we still have the light, which is a far cry from when the Traveler was caged by Gaul. Just caged, not dead, and we lost our light. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Nothing about that finale made any sense, and it felt... I've seen the clip where people are splicing together the first cutscene and the last cutscene, and just... You can see how everything with Neomuna, this entire storyline, the Veil, was just jammed in here for, like, something to do. And while they may explain more about the Veil as time goes on, like, I don't think there's even an answer at this point you could provide. And even if you did, it wouldn't make the Lightfall campaign story any better. So they really lost the plot here. And, like, literally lost the plot. And I am very concerned about kind of the grand finale of the Light and Dark saga, if this is what they thought was like an acceptable storyline to put in here. I know I'm echoing Bife in a lot of ways, and he said this a lot better than me, but that is what I feel. I will take a brief aside here to say that Season of Defiance, which was like 30 minutes of content, had a more compelling narrative than the entirety of the Lightfall campaign. We get we get Marasov, a character we know, providing us power. We get Amanda Holiday and Crow in a really funny, really good cutscene that is an exploration of their relationship, which is very frosty now because Amanda found out he was Aldrin or whatever after that reveal happened a year ago. And the battleground itself was good. We had this, the war on the ground seems a lot more relevant to the current threat than something happening way over there in Neomuna. It feels like a good basis of storyline. And we know the seasonal teams are separate from the expansion teams, and that might include the narrative too. So I would not expect whoever wrote Lightfall is writing Defiance, but it might be the person who's been writing some of the other good past seasons. I don't know what happened to the Witch Queen writers, but Lightfall is clearly not living up to it. I did gloss over the Cloud Striders. I will say, in terms of like the lore of Neomuna and the Cloud Striders, I think it's getting a little better in the post-campaign era. We learned they should have had the exotic quest, the Rohan's Last Mission exotic quest. That should have been in the campaign because it would have humanized the Cloud Striders a little more. It would have been kind of a necessary period of grief that was not saved for the end of the campaign, and I think that would have helped because a lot of people critiquing the story probably haven't even done that yet. Doesn't make it much better, but I think it helps. I don't mind Nimbus. I think Nimbus is fine. I have no issues with the voice acting. I think the problem with Nimbus is not the voice acting. It's not even the writing. I don't even mind that they're this like surfer person like from the 80s, it's like the 80s action movies thing. He's like trying to be, Keanu Reeves in Point Break, or they was trying to be Keanu Reeves in Point Break, and that's not really the issue. The issue is when this is happening. This is supposed to be like the darkest chapter of Lightfall, and then having this person be this like crazy, jovial, upbeat rookie upstart, like talking crap to Osiris, like acting like a football announcer when we're doing the public event. The tone of it does not match up with anything that's happening. That's the problem. Also, an issue with the Cloud Striders was Rohan's death was just stupidly obvious. As soon as I saw the old grizzled mentor and the young rookie in the trailer, I'm like, that dude's gonna die. Like, they're gonna kill that guy. And like, I've read Kujay's big rewriting of the Lightfall campaign on Twitter. It was excellent. I really think the replacing These two with Zavala and Crow, and having Zavala die would have been a massively impactful change, even if it meant losing Zavala. And it's just, this guy we met 20 minutes ago dies when we expect him to die. Nothing about the Lightfall campaign lands on an emotional level, and that is the main problem. So that is the campaign. That's the worst part. The worst part of Lightfall is the campaign and the story. We can move on to things that I think are better, which includes Strand. There are issues with Strands, like in terms of a narrative device in the campaign, but I do fundamentally believe Strand is fun. I think it's a good subclass. I think it is a good addition to the game. The problem with Strand is mainly focused on the grapple and the idea of the grapple. We were kind of sold Strand as this high-flying, crazy mobility subclass, and it is that in the campaign because your cooldowns are crazy low. But once you take it out into the wild, the cooldowns are much higher, and the grapple cooldown is a grenade cooldown. So unless you do everything humanly possible to reduce your grenade cooldown, focusing your entire build just on that, it doesn't feel like a mobility tool like a grappling hook does in every other game of the grappling hook. Like Spider-Man with the webs, the new Halo Infinite with Master Chief. Like, it's a traversal tool, and Bungie treats it like this rare grenade tool that can only be used sometimes, and when you want to use it, it's not there unless you set up this really specific series of events with a tangle and a fixed anchor point, and it doesn't work. What does work is, I would say, almost everything else about Strand. I think the rest of Strand is great. Right now, since I did a Legendary campaign on Warlock, I have these Threadling boots that create 1 million Threadlings and make them do wild things. I just unlocked the Threadling fragments, which make them even better. And then on my Titan, you have essentially a permanent suspend build, which is a lot of fun. You're just constantly spamming barricades, levitating everything, getting bonuses for killing elevated enemies. Like, it's a very fun build, and I think it's a much more interesting Titan class than I think most people were anticipating. Hunter, I'm a little worried about. I haven't gone really deep into Hunter yet, but the little bouncing knife thing where you're supposed to catch it on the way back, I don't have time to stop and see a knife bouncing back to me when there's 1 million things going on in Destiny combat. That's never going to work. And then I'm also worried because the Hunter is so heavily reliant on the grapple. Like, the Warlock has Threadlings, the Titan has Suspends, and the Hunter is supposed to be based around the grapple. Even though you can suspend and whatever on other classes, it's really grapple dependent. So I feel like that's not going to feel good on endgame Hunter. That said, I think Strand is good. I think Strand is going to be good with some buffs in the future once we fully explore these aspects and fragments, once we fully explore all the exotics, once I can make Quicksilver Storm Strand and it gets its damage unnerfed. All of those things are really going to help Strand, and so my initial poor impressions of Strand, based on the transition from the campaign to post-campaign, have decreased a little bit, and I am enjoying it more now. In terms of other stuff, new weapons, we just haven't had a ton of time yet to go through this stuff. I do think there are some new interesting perks. One that spawns a hatchling on precision kill is very cool. There is another one. There's a new kinetic perk that is sort of this AoE stun effect that is neat. There was a volatile flow-ish perk where killing an enemy will make surrounding enemies volatile. That's dropping on certain void weapons now, which is extremely good. I really enjoyed the stasis bow. Everybody likes the stasis bow. I know Quicksilver will be transformative once you can just auto-generate tangles with it. I do not have the new glaive yet. I do not have the new sidearm yet. I'm really close to getting both. I'm honestly just waiting for reset to get the glaives because I have to run one more of those escalation protocol things. The machine gun is... I don't love the machine gun. It's just too basic. It just weakens enemies, makes them volatile on shots. I'd rather be using Terminus or Retrofit Escapade. I don't know. I think it's just a little underwhelming and it needs to be a little more special. Maybe a catalyst could change that. One thing I did forget to list in this. The new armor mod system. What's extremely good, the armor mod application screen. It is fantastic to be able to apply all of your mods on one screen. Really great. Love the opening up of new slots so we don't have to spend time with the artifact perks and things like that. or a dedicated combat mod in the same way. It's a very good change in that sense. It did take away too many mods, and it did over nerf a lot of mods that were fun. I'm getting a call here. That is the main issue. And I think this can be changed over time. They've said they're going to add more mods, so I'm not willing to write this off yet. I am starting to get a little bit more of a handle on armor charge and how that feels. Like getting a 3x bonus on, Osteostriga kinetic damage, or having a reload mod that now applies to every strand weapon you're using. Like, there are some good changes there. I just wish they hadn't, hit the whole system with a hammer as much as they did, deleting all the bonus stats, stuff like that. I also think they over-nerfed cooldowns a little bit, which makes everything kind of feel worse too, separate from the mod system. But this is one thing that I feel can be better in time. I think it just needs more mods. I think it needs a few nerf reversions. And this season in particular, getting to the higher tier of the mod perks on the artifact are crazy, especially the Strand ones. There's one that makes your Strands tangle explosions like this absolutely massive Warmind Cell level explosion that is wild. And yes, that's only for this season, but there's some really fun stuff in there. And I love the new system that lets you just do this stuff as perks. In terms of kind of the other new systems they've implemented here, the Guardian rank system was not rolled out right at all. It is ridiculous that everyone is just sitting at a straight level 6. We've been playing this game for 5 years now. There should be some differentiation between someone who has put 20 hours into the game and someone who has put 5,000 hours into the game. But that's getting to level 6 is barely doing anything. It's interacting with the basest of base mechanics of the game to get to level 6, and then now there is going to be this level 7 to 12 grind every season. I think it's really crap that it resets every season. I hate stuff that resets or knocks you back every season. I've always hated that with artifact power, and now you're going to add that to the Guardian rank system. It should work more like Triumph Score. This should be something that you work toward over time. That's a lifetime Destiny career thing, not just resetting every season. Everyone's level 6, and then depending on how hard you want to grind that specific season, your number will go up. That's stupid. That's not a good system. I don't like it in its current form. Nor do I really think it's that good of a onboarding system for new players. It might give them a few more directed triumphs, but that's all it is. It's just an altered Triumph challenge system. It's not going to fix the new player onboarding problems with Destiny. Finally, commendations. This is a minor thing. I think this was a well-intentioned idea that right now is just kind of nonsense. The fact that they have a powerful drop tied to commendations mean you are just spamming commendations at the end of every single encounter, whenever you can do it, not really putting any thought into them. In a perfect world, you're in an LFG, you do a really tough raid, it went really well, you're okay, this person did this thing well, this person did that thing well. But in practice, I think most people are just going to be spamming commendations willy-nilly, and they don't really mean anything. I think the best part of this is seeing everyone's armor at the end and seeing their looks. I think there should be a best dressed commendation. But I like the post-match screen where it's seeing people's looks and builds, and then the score and stuff. That's the part of commendations I like. I don't really care about the actual commendations themselves. So that's 90% of the major things, I think. Again, there was a lot of stuff I've not gone into yet. I haven't played PvP at all. Obviously, what would I even say about Gambit? Other than Trust is now dropping from there. There's a lot more weapons I got to grind out. The crafting changes. They're so major, it barely even feels like crafting exists anymore. You're not farming currency for it. You're not seeing any red frames outside of the only patterns you don't have on existing weapons. They've really reduced the number of crafted weapons, I think. You can't even craft the Escalation Protocol activity weapons from Neomuna. I don't know. I've always maintained that I think crafting is something of a mistake, but they have scaled it back to the point where it's a little goofy, how much they've stripped it down from their initial vision. But if it's less of a grind, if it's less annoying, sure, I guess I'm all for that. Uh, there is a lot of stuff that I want to do. I will be gone for World's First next week. I think, is it Friday or Saturday? Maybe I can watch it Friday, but I don't run it. I don't mean I don't run it day one anyway. But seems pretty obvious. We know who the raid boss is and kind of the theme of the raid based on the campaign. That is no surprise. But I'm very curious to see how this raid will stack up. And then obviously this is a live game. There's lots of changes they're making. They just unlocked every Strand fragment yesterday, like because people were pushing back. So there are some changes they can make quickly here. It's just a matter of what feedback they react to, and then some things you can't fix. You can't go back and fix the Lightfall storyline now. It's forever bad. It is probably the worst storyline we've seen in the game since Destiny 1. No fixing that, even if you do tell us what the Veil is in future seasons. So other stuff you can fix. You can buff Strand, you can unnerf cooldowns, you can fix the armor charge system. Like, there's plenty of stuff that can be worked on from here. So anyway, those are kind of my generalized thoughts. I know I missed some things, but I will circle back to individual topics and we can get into that later. But thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.